Good afternoon, everyone, with this webinar, which is what is there for cities in 2025. And
wait a second, so that people coming.
Okay, people are coming. Sorry for this. We are just accepting people. So give us, those who hear, just 30 seconds. Okay, welcome everyone. So a lot of people, sorry, it's just taking a technological couple of seconds to accept people, speakers, a lot of them. So we are handling this right now. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Give us 30 seconds, probably more. So we are accepting people. Welcome to Paula Deda. Paula, you're muted and I can see you, Joshua. Hi, Joshua.
Volume was very, very high.
Volume is very high. Okay. And right now, yes. So we are online. We started to accept people. So everyone is there. It's not a testing anymore. So I will do 1, 2, 3, and then start for starting. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to all. Happy to have you with us. I am Camelia Kemileva, and here also with Anto Duong sitting next to me. You can't see her. Yeah, you can see her. And also we invited some friends here, Diana Risolio, the director, the coordinator of the Geneva Environment Network, the whole team of the Geneva Environment Network, good friends, thank you. Paula Deda, who is the head of the UN Forum of Mayors Secretariat here in Geneva, Yunus Arikan, director of Global Advocacy, ICLEI World Secretariat, the biggest and most important network in the environment, and again, dear friends, and Joshua Maviti from UN Habitat. Joshua, I don't know you personally. I know Robin Louis Lettington, who is right now in the plane coming to you. So, but you are the good guy because you're in the secretariat and chairperson of the open-ended working group, intergovernmental group, working group on housing. So you will tell us everything about this. Very shortly, housekeeping rules. This meeting is in hybrid form, as you can see here from Geneva and then from everywhere. Questions and answers will be transmitted to the panelists as much as possible, and we will also reply bilaterally. And I want to thank all the colleagues in the room everywhere for accepting to do this webinar. So a couple of words to tell you why we are doing this event. This is the first time that we try really a webinar on the multilateralism in general, which means that we speak about different events. As you see, it will be environment, it will be health, it will be disaster relief, it will be also smart cities, digitalization. So take it a little bit like a news of the year. And we have made a selection of what is important for cities. We're also talking about the Forum of Mayors, which is basically nowhere in these topics and everywhere, because the Forum of Mayors is on localizing SDGs, but it could be also on climate, on health, on urbanization. And this is the first ever official United Nations body, which is composed of subnational governments, mayors. So bear with us, lot of topics. Shortly, we'll keep it to 1 hour and obviously taking as much as possible questions and answers. Second, this event is based on our understanding of what might be important for you in 2025 in all these areas, but we are not probably almighty, knowing everything. So if you have in mind a multilateral event, which you think is important for subnational, so regional and local governments, please publish the link and a very short comment, 1 sentence in the chat. But bear in mind, we are speaking about multilateral, that means multi-stakeholders events, which are open to all, and we will take into account only that one. that once if you publish them. And third, the relevant, can you put the PowerPoint, the second slide, please? So the relevant events, our events and your events published in the chat will be included in a short news that we will publish after this event on our website, so on the website of the Global Cities Hub. So please check it within 48 hours, as well as our YouTube channel. With this, without further ado, because we have a lot of topics to cover as efficiently as possible, let me turn to Paula Deda. So why Paula Deda? Because she's the head of this secretariat running the UN Forum of Mayors. And this is the secretariat of the first ever official UN body, which is composed by subnational governments, in this case, mayors. So it's mayors only, Forum of Mayors. Paula, very happy to welcome you here. Let us know what the UN Forum of Mayors will do during its session, which is scheduled for 6 and 7 of October this year in Geneva, and how the preparations are going. Paula, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Camilla, and good afternoon to everybody. Really happy to be here and be able to share this information with you. So we are now at the 5th session of this forum of meeting, the 5th meeting. We start in 2020, and this body is growing. And I'm calling it body because this is indeed a body of the United Nations, allowing mayors to participate in their own capacity. So not as part of the delegation or not as civil society, but really as mayors. What is to be expected for 2025? Well, the Bureau of the Forum of Mayors has decided that we are going to cover many topics. So 3 SDGs to be reviewed by HLPF in July, which is gender, the one on gender, the one on labor, and the one on health. So we are connecting these SDGs to cities, so gender in cities, work issues in cities, as well as healthy cities. We will also talk about climate financing for cities. So really be trying to share information and examples of how cities have been able to finance their climate adaptation and mitigation plans, but also learn from experts on how this can be done. We will also address VLRs, so voluntary local reviews, hear from those who have done them, and really exchange ideas and information on how to do them further. And last but not least, we will discuss housing-related issues, as on the 8th of October, there will be a ministerial meeting on housing. So all the ministers will be here, and mayors will have an opportunity to send them recommendations for their consideration on the day after. This is, of course, the official plan. As you know, we also have many side events, which are side in the sense they take place during lunchtime, morning or evening, but they're not less important. In fact, we address issues such as women mayors. So we have a special meeting for women mayors. We have a very important meeting with the heads of international organizations in Geneva, which is actually organized by you guys, by the Global Cities Hub. We also have other meetings on VLRs where we discuss voluntary local reviews in more depth, and a series of other side events on environment and other topics. What is the expected outcome? Mayors, the Forum Bureau is already working to prepare recommendations for member states to consider, including recommendations on how to modify the Committee on Urban Development, Housing and Land Management terms of reference. Let's not forget that the Forum reports to this committee, and the idea is really to update the terms of reference. So this body will also address localization of SDGs in a more comprehensive manner. I don't know if there's anything else you want to know from me on this session. It's very important to stress, of course, this is a global event, although it's organized in Geneva by UNICE. thanks to the support of all regional commissions in the UN. So also other 4 regional commissions, as well as the Global Cities Hub, we are able also to have the secure participation of mayors from all over the world. So if you are interested in being part of this group, please join us. One piece of news which is very interesting, we are now creating a Forum of Mayors alumni group, because many of you maybe will come only to one session and not to a second or a third, but this creates really a community. This meeting creates a community. So the community will be addressed by the current chair, which is the City of Glasgow, so that you will also be invited to come to all the following sessions, but also be aware of what the forum is discussing, what are the documents, what are the events, what this community, which is growing every day, is actually dealing with. I conclude again stressing the importance of the forum because it's really within the UN. There are many very effective networks and very effective meetings, but let's not forget that local authorities have been really fighting a lot for their recognition within the UN, and this is actually de facto the only body in the UN who is allowing them full participation. So we hope you understand the relevance of this because it's it took a long time to us to be able to get to the special status, and obviously this also gives the opportunity to mayors to really have an impact within the UN through their recommendations, their decisions, the adoption of their own documents. I think I stop here, Camelia, because it's 10 minutes, but if there are questions, of course, I'm happy to address them. And also we stay online because I see there are many, many other presentations that are super interesting. So I'll remain connected.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you very much. And yes, we are fair alumni ourselves because we have been to all the sessions so far, and we saw this, shall I say, amazing development of the UN Forum of Mayors, because we really started under COVID, let us not forget this, and evolved, and now it's universal body. Now it is called by member states UN Forum of Mayors. So it's really a lot for only like 4 years, because the 5th session is ahead of us. One thing to say, very practical, the current session is not yet officially reflected on the UN website. It is reflected in the website of the Global Cities Hub, which is temporary, and we will obviously refer to the original, to the official website. Also, the Forum of Mayors is an official United Nations body. This means that you can watch previous, if you are a fan, you can watch 2 days of Forum of Mayors, second after second, of the so-called UN TV, United Nations TV. We are showing the slide of this. You can Google it and find it. And it's a little bit, rocket science to find the session that you look at, but you can Google the 4th session of the Forum of Mayors. Obviously, this is the session of 2024. And you can watch this on the official United Nations TV. There is such a thing. Thank you for this, Paula. Thank you for staying with us. Now, turning without further ado again to Diana Rizzolio. So Diana, you are from the UNEP, United Nations Environment Programme, based in Geneva, but you are running this Geneva Environment Network. Again, thank you for being here with colleagues. So you have a very difficult task to speak about a lot of things, out of a lot of things, which are relevant for local and regional governments in 2025. So be quick and efficient, go.
I will try. We have indeed this year important negotiations and discussions that are coming up to Geneva and to many other cities around the world to address the triple crisis of climate change, native biodiversity and land loss, as well as waste and pollution. Member states are leading these negotiations, but platforms such as the Global Cities Hub, ICLEI, and other cities platforms are essential because they bring the local governments into these negotiations and showcasing of the role that they can play and the solutions that they can bring. So indeed here, Yunus, Camelia, Joshua, and many others are the real stars. So let's start by speaking about climate action. Important deadlines coming up this year. As you know, we have at the end of each year's member states meeting somewhere around the world to discuss how we advance on climate change. So this year they will be meeting in Belém, in Brazil, and it's an important moment. So as I mentioned, in this gathering, cities and local governments are active, showcasing of what they do on climate action. An important deadline that is
and Yunus will come back to this in more details.
He's going because he's the real star there.
He's the real star.
I just want to bring up an important deadline which is coming up in a few days. It's actually about the nationally determined contributions, so known as NDCs with their acronym. So those are at the heart of the Paris Agreement on climate change. And the achievement of the goals that we need to achieve there. So that's what countries agree to reduce in terms of national emissions and how they are adapting to the impacts of climate change. And so in these types of commitments, you have also language related to the cities. And indeed, various organizations, including UN Habitat, have been reviewing these NDCs and the place that the reference to urban areas and others, language on local governments, how it's present there. So there is also, it's a place where you can find a place for cities. But there are also, of course, also voluntary contributions, and we see that when some states are announcing that they are not engaging that much, you see mayors and other leaders from local governments showcasing of what they can indeed engage to. Because in terms of emissions, we need to reduce to not increase more than 1.5 degrees by 2030. We need to reduce emissions by 42%, so it's a lot that we need to do, and this is why we need all on board. So now, sorry, I'm not looking at the camera, but at the screen. Moving on to the pollution agenda, which is very important here in Geneva. Plastic pollution is a topic that you have been discussing.
Yunus and I will come back on this.
You will come back on that, but we were expecting the negotiations to conclude last year. They are still not concluded, but they will be hopefully this summer. As you know, at the initiative of local governments and cities platforms, we have now a local and subnational governments coalition to end plastic pollution. That's great, and you will come back on that. So I won't say much. But of course, this is a very important topic for cities and local governments because it's really at the local level that we also experience some of these problems. Although the health component here, the health, etc., is also an important part of that discussion. In terms of pollution, there's a lot happening. We are trying to put in place a science policy platform, so equivalent of what we call the IPC. You asked me to not
the climate panel
acronyms, but I think IPCC is one of those acronyms that a lot of people know. It's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that brings every 5 years those reports on the scientific evidence of climate change. We have an equivalent which is called IPBES for biodiversity, and now we are trying to put in place one for pollution. That's an important negotiation that we hope to conclude this year. The negotiation is taking place in Punta del Este in Uruguay. And why do I mention this panel? The IPCC, and I mentioned that at the previous meeting, is preparing actually a report on cities. And so you see that those platforms and panels are also important because they can bring those topics on board. In terms of pollution, the agenda is much more packed because as you have the Paris Agreement for climate change, the coming Montreal Biodiversity Agreement for biodiversity, we have a global framework on chemicals that doesn't have the name of a city, but was agreed in Bonn in 2023. And that agreement has also language on local governments and mentions the importance of all relevant sectors and stakeholders at the local, national, and regional levels to be involved. So they are having their open and working group also most probably in Punta del Este back to back with the other meeting I mentioned before.
Punta del Este in Uruguay.
In Uruguay, yes. Then we have in Geneva the other conventions that deal with pollution on chemicals and waste, which has Basel, so a lot of names of cities, Basel, Rotterdam, Stockholm, and Minamata. All these are meeting this year here in Geneva. This, of course, it's governments engaging, but some of these bodies have elements such as, for example, partnerships that local governments can join. For example, the Basel Convention has these partnerships on plastics waste with interesting things happening there. So this is also to be followed. In terms of biodiversity action, we spoke a lot about Cali last year, Cali, Colombia, where the biodiversity convention was taking place. It's resuming in Rome in a few days. But in terms of biodiversity, Ramsar is also taking place later this year. In Saudi Arabia, I think, and there maybe also they have also what they call a wetlands scheme for cities, and they have announced actually last week that 30 new cities have launched this wetland city accreditation scheme. So a lot of possibilities of engagement there. We have also, in terms of biodiversity, and I'm sorry, the UN Ocean Conference in Nice, in France, sorry. It's close to Geneva, so I missed the country. IUCN Congress, which is taking place also this year. The importance about the IUCN Congress is also you have some local regional governments that are part of are members of IUCN. So a lot also happening there. And then the year will culminate with something that is important for you, Camelia, because you are very much engaged there with the United Nations Environmental Assembly in December, that is taking place in Nairobi, Kenya, under the theme Advancing Sustainable Solutions for a Resilient Planet. You were very much engaged, Camelia, at the last UNEA with the Cities and Regions Summit that will most probably also take place back to back there. So we'll probably mention that. But I couldn't stop without mentioning that you have other conventions and bodies meeting that are addressing the environment with possibilities and with discussions that are also important for regional and local governments. Among these, of course, also what's happening at the World Health Assembly, at the International Labour Organization, and in other places, including at the Human Rights Council. And the importance that the right to a healthy environment that was adopted at the UN General Assembly a couple of years ago. Now we are working on the implementation of that right, and at the regional level and at the local level. So a lot of happening also in that space.
Thank you very much, Diana. You did the impossible job to mention so many things. Those who are online, please do not worry. We will publish information, but you can also help yourself by Googling, if you don't have yet, the name of Geneva Environment Network, which is part of the UNEP, but you know, quite comprehensive and informative. They have an amazing newsletter run by these people here you see behind me, and you can learn and follow all this and more on this website. It's a one-stop shop for everything that Diana says and that Yunus will say now. Yunus, your turn, very logically. So what Diana said from UNEP and UN Secretariat point of view, Yunus, you are following this. You don't sleep. I know that you don't sleep. This is absolutely proven. You're following all this, although you will concentrate on the climate COP, so in Belém, Brazil, end of year, and the plastic pollution treaty negotiation. Please feel free to make also comments or to complement what Diana just said. Yunus, the floor is yours.
Dear Camelia, first of all, a warm thanks to you and all the global Cities Up colleagues and your partners in giving us the space to share our updates with you, and especially for this very nice introduction. I'm not sure I should be proud of sleeping less, but I think last year particularly was the similar thing for all the colleagues. It was a remarkable year. It was one of the most busiest year in the last couple of years, with the overlapping of so many multilateral environmental agreement COPs and UN summits. In that sense, yes, Maybe just to do a brief update, I shared also with you our latest blog. You can feel free to share with our colleagues how do we map the top 10 processes that we will follow this year. Maybe just also a background. I know you have a diverse team of audience. We are a network of local governments on sustainability, especially. We are living the legacy of Local Agenda 21. So we are particularly focusing on the Rio Conventions and related agendas as ICLE, but because of ICLE's global focal point role, we also convene the engagement of Global Task Force and other partners, and especially with the Global Cities Hub, we enjoy over the past couple of years. Geneva had been much more active than ever. That's very, very helpful for us, also in Nairobi and New York agendas, especially observing the evolution or the progress or lack of on the global multilateralism. I think Geneva's role will become even more important. So it's good to have a cities hub in Geneva and having else to connect all the partners. From our perspective, obviously, this year has pros and cons. There's less hectic global agenda at the global platforms. Why we say that as a global as an opportunity? Because that gives us the chance that we can work at home, that we can focus our dialogue with our national government, the capitals. Obviously, in that sense, the climate agenda has a unique role. We all know there is a debate whether everything is under climate or whether it has the cross-cutting element of climate and all other agendas. But let's be realistic. We have a golden opportunity because this year is critical for nations to prepare their national climate plans. And as mentioned by our colleagues and previous speakers, over the past 10 years or so, we have finally made sure that they have an official mandate. From Dubai, we have a mandate of paragraph 161 of the UA consensus that they are urged to bring multi-level climate plans. That's a huge difference. That was not the case in the previous era when Paris Agreement was signed, in the initial commitments, nor in the Glasgow plans in 2021. So there is already an official mandate for them to bring their national climate plans through by collaboration with their local and regional governments. But of course, like every UN agreement, especially these soft conventions, that is not a guarantee that they will do this. So we have to bring mechanisms to support them. And that was the beauty in Dubai, that we have a collaboration of CHAMP, Coalition of High Ambition Multi-Level Action Partnerships, which is at that time in Dubai signed by 72 countries, now 74. In 2024, it was UK and Finland joining us. So it's an initiative that national governments commit to bring their national climate plans through multi-level collaboration. So we as actors like ICLE, C40, UCLG, and all others are not the main responsible of this initiative. So it's the national governments, either through their Minister of Environment or through their Minister of Urbanization. So obviously, the UNFCCC, the parties are 198, and CHAMP is 74. So obviously there are countries who have not signed up to CHAMP but still can bring their multi-level climate action pursuant to paragraph 161. So obviously in Baku, this last year, the main contributions was that there was an initiative by the Azerbaijan presidency, which is called Multi-Level Action Partnerships, which is aiming to bridge these initiatives since Sharm el-Sheikh and also connect to World Urban Forums, the World Environment Days, so that it is encompassing multiple fronts. That we were very happy. That was part of the third years in a row, the urban and climate ministerials, which was something that we have been asking for over more than 10 years, but it's becoming now a regular agenda, hopefully, thanks to the presidencies. This year, we have an advantage. Brazil has already brought their national climate plan, the Brazil Embassy, with a fantastic vision for climate federalism. So in the Brazil Embassy, you see that vision. Brazil is one of the 4 CHAMP endorsing countries, which is 4 out of 9 countries who have submitted their NDCs. We hope this number will increase. Obviously, February is a soft deadline. It's a difference that it's not have to be February only. Therefore, we are hoping that by the time we get closer to Belém, there will be more climate plans with multi-level collaboration. In order to support this, we are running this town hall COPs, and we are inviting champion endorsing countries and all the cities and regions around the world to convene this dialogue at the local level so that they can influence their NDCs. We will make a pit stop in June in Bonn, where the technical meetings will be convening, and we will make sure during the Daring Cities Forum, we will make progress on how we advance this. We are hoping that the examples from Brazil, even the US NDC, Panama, Emirates will bring a good notion that countries can enjoy these ambitious NDCs together with their local and regional governments. But it is, of course, a homework that we have to convene.
So just to summarize this, because in order for people not to get worried that they miss important information, so we will publish in the news of this website the fact what Diana said, and you confirmed there is a soft deadline, but still a deadline in February for these national commitments of states towards the climate COP, which is having place in Belém, November 2025. Some states will come up later, but we will probably see the first ones in February. You are enhancing and stimulating them, and we do the same, by the way, in the Global Cities Hub, to work as much as possible with local and regional governments so we can follow progress. In parallel to this, you, ICLEI, yourself and your team, you have these which are monthly webinars, newsletters, which we will also make a reference in the news, so directly to the website, because you are very active, very informative. And so this is the whole climate thing this year, the climate agenda, which is helping us to advance towards the COP30 in Belém, Brazil, which will be very much on cities and regions, because it is the number 30. It is precisely 10 years after the Paris Agreement. So there is a memento window of opportunity to go ahead. Is this correct?
Definitely. And particularly as this is a growth exchange, in the Forum of Mayors, I would really be very happy if you can already consider to include an agenda about the NDCs 3.0 and how multi-level collaboration has been achieved in the UNEC or others on board. Because by that time we reach to the UN Forum of Mayors, more or less most NDCs will be there. So it could be a good stepping stone, because a month later it will be in Belém. So that could be something we can work for together. And we can probably present good practices that could be necessary. And of course, the idea is that how to continue the implementation of NDCs will be the agenda on the way forward, and how to make sure the outcome in Belém, make sure the implementation also has a vision for multi-level collaboration. At the moment, we have this only in the preparation of the NDCs, but there's no guarantee that multi-level spirit is in the NDC implementation era as well. So these are the things we can work together. And as you mentioned, we are acting this as the LGMA, the focal point. This is the constituency where we are acting as the facilitator, and other networks will also be part of this process. Plastics treaty, I mean, it was also on my agenda, but compared to the climate agenda, it's much less, as you all know, as mentioned before. Actually, maybe we could expect more from you, because as far as we are aware, the resumed negotiations may be held in Geneva in summertime. So that could bring more role for Global Cities Hub to help us to moderate. But from our side, we have the coalition. We would like to have endorsements to this coalition from different parts of the world, local and regional governments. Global Cities is one of the facilitators of this subnational coalition. The text, how much we will advance, we will see. But there is also a reality that those who are familiar with the UN space, our gut feeling is that it will be Nairobi, the UN Environment Assembly, which was the whole treaty idea was born, will be the place where it will be concluding in terms of the negotiations. Therefore, The relation with Nairobi, the relation with the CPR will be even more important so that they can make sure this process ends up with the right momentum and right structure and ambition. So as I said, the website that you have shown is exactly the place where you could consult and bring your voices here, and happy to follow up on the way forward together.
Yes, thank you, Yunus. Thank you. I don't know about Nairobi. I have already betted money and I've lost on the INC5, so I'm not making any prognostic anymore. But yes, we will follow closely. And please, if you are local and regional governments listening to this webinar and not yet part of this coalition, the subscription is, shall I say, just a kind of a political act. It's not, it's for free, etc. But this shows to the member states, because the treaties are negotiated by central governments, by member states, that local and regional governments are important. That's the aim of the coalition. So we negotiate also not on behalf, but for the interest of local and regional governments, ICLEI, UCLG, ourselves, C40, and also governments, local governments, regional governments of Quebec and Catalonia, who are probably on the webinar. So shedding light on this quickly, but obviously you can find much more information on our respective websites. Thank you, Yunus. Stay with us a little bit more. Turning now to a completely different topic, which is health. There is another treaty of our times, the pandemic treaty, we call it. It's not the official title, but my colleague, the co-director of Global City Stuff, who is multitasking because she's sharing PowerPoints and, replying to questions. She's also a speaker because she's the one following this pandemic treaty negotiation, which is quite closed doors outside of member states. It's not very transparent. So how it works, this pandemic treaty, what are the issues there, and when this treaty will be concluded, and is it relevant, how it is relevant basically for local and regional governments?
Thank you, Camelia. I'll try to be short, but I'll have to go back a little bit to the beginning of the story, reminding you that states had agreed actually following the COVID-19 pandemic to negotiate a new international instrument. We'll call it a treaty to better prepare, prevent, and respond to future pandemics. So the negotiation started in 2022. It's been running for 3 years now. And the objective is really to help countries drive a more equitable response to future pandemics by ensuring that tests, vaccines, treatments are better shared, by improving information sharing about pathogens with pandemic potential, and overall by enhancing cooperation between states for a common response to future pandemics. At the core of the treaty, and this is where the issue is, lies the question of equity, ensuring that all countries can protect their population, the economy, regardless of their level of development. And that has to go through solidarity mechanisms among states. Just to get a little bit more into the details, what does it mean, equity? It means for states negotiating it at the moment to have a system of pathogens access and benefits sharing, the PABs, to ensure that countries that share genetic resources and pathogen samples with pandemic potential in a timely manner can in return benefit from it, either with having access to vaccines, to diagnostics, or to get monetary benefits out of, sharing those pathogen samples. It is also, when we talk about equity, it also means that we need to facilitate the transfer of technology, skills, and know-how for the production of pandemic-related products. Again, you talk about vaccines, treatments, and it does raise intellectual property issues. And finally, I would say the third thing after the PABs and the question of intellectual property issue, it's about the funding. How do we fund efforts required to implement the treaty, to strengthen pandemic prevention and surveillance national plans and programs. So this is what the treaty is all about. And where do we stand now? So we've had 12 sessions of negotiation for the past 3 years, all in Geneva, all at the World Health Organization headquarters. The negotiations were supposed to conclude by May 2024, but states failed to reach consensus. So the process has been extended for another year until this May 2025, in time for the 78th World Health Assembly. We'll have upcoming negotiation sessions in February next month and then in March. So the modalities are a little bit complicated for those who are not parts of state delegations. We simply cannot be part of the negotiations. So we have a short briefing in the morning with the chair of the process. We receive the text at the end of the day, but we don't really know what is being said during the day. So it makes it hard to follow, what are the exact issues, what are the compromise put forward. We have expressed concern about those modalities, but as you can imagine, some states have opposed non-state actors to participate in the negotiation per se. You may also know that the United States of America, through its president, has withdrawn from WHO. It also means that they have withdrawn from the negotiation process. So, I'm not sure exactly how this will weigh in terms of negotiation dynamics, but it certainly will have, some influence then. In terms of issues, I would say that it is really the traditional North-South divide, with the South wanting more equity, better access to pandemic-related health products, getting financial support from the North, and the North, the developed countries who do not want to be forced to transfer technologies. Again, I'm going back to the intellectual property issues. They want to protect their pharmaceutical industries, and they want developing countries to do their part in terms of better prevention, to make sure that we better prevent outbreak of new pathogens. What is really at the crux now of the negotiation is annexes to the treaties, where the European Union wants an annex on prevention, spelling out what states have to do to better prevent, basically, future outbreaks of new pathogens. And we have on the other side, the South, and in particular, the African group, who's very reluctant to agree to costly prevention measures. And in exchange, it wants an annex on this PABS system, the Pathogen Access Benefits Sharing System. So, it's really kind of, I would say, tit for tat. There's nothing about LRGs, local and regional governments, in the treaty. Let's be very honest. We do have some references to local communities, which sometimes states take it as sufficient to refer to the local level, but there's no references either to any urban, wording. There is one article about the whole of government, whole of society approaches. There are several important articles on the impact that this treaty will have on local and regional governments, such as, again, prevention, such as communication, public awareness, such as healthcare resilience systems. So there are a lot of things, basically, that will have an impact on local and regional governments when it is adopted, if it is adopted. So I would encourage you to look at our policy paper that we have published on our website. It's under publication. It's been published last September, but I think all the issues spelled out in the paper are still very much valid. So stay tuned about the pandemic treaty, and we'll provide you with more information.
Yes, and while I am concluding this, before re-giving you the floor for something else, we have a slide here with this publication, which you can show for a moment, but otherwise it's on our website. So as you see, this is really a screenshot of our website. Thank you very much for this, Antu. So basically, to follow this negotiation, it is the only way is basically to connect with us and other think tanks who are following it. It's quite closed door, much more closed door than the plastic pollution treaty, basically, for whichever reasons, I don't know. But just these are the two main treaties of our times, which are negotiated from a couple of years, as Yunus and Antu mentioned, the Plastic Pollution Treaty and the Pandemic Treaty in formal titles, whereas we think or we believe or it is scheduled that the negotiation will conclude this year. That means that then it is a technical period after which will run, where the states of the United Nations have to ratify these treaties in order to make them enter into force. So this can happen quite quickly. This can stay there for years. We can have a treaty, but not into force because not ratified enough. And after this, we will have these, conventions or meetings of member states, which are known as COP, on pandemic treaty, on plastic treaty, on other treaties, and the agenda will become even more charged. Hopefully with more positive results for the Earth, by the way. So with this, I would like to put you the slide on the UNDRR also onto and give you very shortly the word for something completely else.
Yes,
go ahead.
Jumping to another topic very quickly to make some promotion about an important big event that will take place in Geneva from the 2nd to the 6th of June. It's going to be the 8th session of the Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction. It's a forum where participants will take stock of the progress, share new knowledge, exchange best practices, discuss the latest developments and trends about reducing disaster risk. It's mainly about, hopefully most people know it, what we call the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, how we deal with human and natural disasters, basically, and how we better, we strengthen our resilience to these disasters. The theme of this year will be Every Day Counts, Act for Resilience Today. I will really encourage you to have a look at their website. We're going to have quite a number of interesting panels for local and regional governments about risk governance at the local level, about how to localize this Sendai framework, how to build inclusive urban resilience, how to basically locally invest into resilience. We'll talk about extreme heat. So a lot of things that are very relevant to cities and regions out there in any parts of the world where you stay, basically. It's a real multi-stakeholder event. Anyone can register, and local and regional governments can register in their own capacity. So you don't need to go through your national delegations for that. So stay tuned. Again, we'll provide you with more updates as we get closer to the event. But June 2025, Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, all this information will be in our short news, which will be published on our website with links. So you can look into these websites, which we show the screenshots right now in this basically short PowerPoint that we have done. With this, passing to the next point, which is Joshua. Thank you for waiting calmly and patiently for your turn. So Joshua, you have a background which is very much relevant for the discussion, housing, so to say, background, but you're also, you have a role as UN Habitat staff into the developing of the chair summary. So the chair is the guy or the girl, I don't know, ambassador probably or expert, who is chairing or presiding this intergovernmental open-ended working group, long title to say that all the member states participate in an equal role in this working group. That means this in a UN jargon. So you're developing the chair summary of the meeting. First meeting held already in December 2024. And you know everything about this working group, and you can tell us everything in a couple of minutes. Go ahead, Joshua.
Yes, I have a few slides. Thank you. I have a few slides. I don't know whether I can just share them. Or
we will actually
whichever.
allow. Yeah, we will allow to share, so you can go ahead basically with your.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. Okay. So I don't think. Let me see what happens. Okay.
You have
yeah.
5-6 minutes, not more. Sorry for this.
No, that's fine. I'll do that. So yeah, I think you had introduced the name very well. So for everyone else there, I'm Joshua Maviti, working for UN Habitat in Nairobi, specifically land, housing, and shelter section. And so we last year, towards the end of the year in December, we held this open-ended intergovernmental expert working group on adequate housing for all. It's quite mouthy, but why was just wanted to bring you just kind of an idea of why did we come up with this, and then because this was the first session, what we are going to be looking at in the subsequent session. As you can see, it's an open-ended, so there's quite a little bit of work which is ahead of us. And in 2023, in June, we had the UN Habitat Assembly, and one of the resolutions during that assembly was adequate housing for all. Of course, there's been concern with the member states about the issues of housing. Is it becoming a global issue, a challenge not only just for the global south, but also global north in terms of different aspects, affordability, inadequacy, and all that. But we did not have a common understanding of what are these kind of issues with housing. How can they be addressed policy-wise, and also kind of like even financing? So there was need to kind of form an expert working group to kind of bring issues together, and then advise the assembly in subsequent meetings on what the policies and the content should be. Yeah, for member states to be able to accelerate towards universal achievement of safe, sustainable, adequate, and affordable housing. Also, a lot of stuff. So this first session was held on 9th to 11th December 2024. And of course, as you mentioned, I was working on developing the chair summary. This is like listening to the deliberations and picking up points which are key to proceed to the session. And then at the end of the day, to have, end of this the working group sessions, to have a summary of points which will be taken forward, what the intersessional meetings will need to consider. And just to skip, I put this information in one of the slides. Why is it not opening? Okay, I put it in the chat, the link to the meeting, which has some documents, some background, around 4 other papers, which we kind of like brought like background papers, looking at adequate housing, looking at funding for housing, looking at data, and how we can measure the indicators. So there's got a lot of wealth of information you could just use with the link in the chat over here. Now the next, some of the recommendations. Of course, I have a few minutes, and I would like you to check the information from there. It's quite on the report. The chair report is quite detailed on what the next sessions we should be considered in terms of themes. So the recommendations is that there will be, now going forward, there will be intersessional ad hoc groups. Intersession means like we will have sessions every year as of now, but in between there will be like other ad hoc group sessions, which will be mostly based on thematic issues, and this will be submitted in the working group during the session. So we are waiting at the moment for the executive board to give us a guidance on when this the next date for the session, which should be the fourth quarter of the year of 2025. But at the same time, we will be looking at some of these issues to be discussed during the intersessional meetings. So these are information which we could also bring subsequently. But so kind of the next item, which also was in the resolution, was setting up a adequate housing platform. This is kind of a place whereby we'll have hope to have all of wealth information on our housing, informal settlements, adequacy, cost, and all that, and then in one place where it can be accessible to, I think, all, not only just member states. At the moment, the working group is open, but the discussions are for the member states. So we have also had NGOs coming, civil societies, other representatives, but they're not. They will be able to give their contributions, but the deliberations, discussions are usually just for the member states. I don't know that I'm done by 5 minutes. So just to reiterate the last minute, that the important information here is that we will have the next session for the quarter of the year, and that information will be coming up. I think subsequently we can communicate. If you have time, look at the link shared on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. And I might consult you also for what we put on our website. For how long this intergovernmental working group is scheduled? I mean, I know it's open-ended, but it is like without delay, or it is decided year after year, or how it works?
So this is the first one we have had. What will happen is, like, we'll continue having the session. So this year we'll have another session. So I think the assembly will consider the standing till they feel like it has accomplished the mandate or the goals which is set for. So for the moment, it's called open-ended. So it will still keep working, but for the resolution itself, the reporting is 2030. So we're hoping that at some point it will have to stop.
Okay, thank you, Joshua.
Yeah.
Very clear. Thank you very much for this. And then I will consult you bilaterally, as I said. So
Thank you.
Jumping extremely quickly on my side, basically replacing my other colleague, Andras, who is not with us today, but he left me speaking points about what we call in a global term digitalization, but there is also one important, super important meeting this year, again in Geneva. This is held in the ITU, International Telecommunication Union, which is the oldest and one of the biggest organizations within the UN family, but an organization per se. And so they have this process which is called World Summit of Information Society. So World Summit of Information Society is now a little bit of archaic name because it exists from already 20 years. And 20 years ago, we were not speaking about artificial intelligence and social media, we were speaking about information society. So under this a little bit bizarre name, which is called WSIS now, and you see the website, we have a document which basically is a soft law document, a resolution, but regulates many of the things related to digitalization, share of information in our times. And WSIS plus 20 means that this year in July, particularly 7 to 11 of July, this high-level meeting, including member states, but also many other stakeholders, experts and others, will negotiate the future framework for this digitalization of our times. Again, in Geneva, we are organizing as Global Cities Hub together with ITU, together with the International Union of Telecommunications, the Smart City Leaders Talk, which you will find a lot of information on our website. So this Smart Cities Leaders Talk involves mayors and also digital experts on city and regional level who share what are the issues for mayors, for cities, discuss the contributions of smart cities developments to overcome emerging urban challenges, etc. So join us online or in person for this. We would be glad to involve some of you as speakers or participants, and let's stay in touch for this also bilaterally and through our website. This WSIS will take place in July, And a little bit earlier before, and with no clear connection, but this is how UN works, UN Habitat will adopt the guidelines on smart cities, which are guidelines they have been mandated by the member states of UN Habitat. So this will happen in Nairobi at the end of May, beginning of June, and we will see how these things come together. And the last things on digitalization, the first Cityverse assembly, and don't ask me exactly what is Cityverse. The word comes from metaverse, but it is Cityverse, so metaverse for cities, will be again organized by ITU with the participation of Global Cities Hub, will take place in Torino, Italy on 16-17 June 2025. Then there will be also a Cityverse assembly later on in a Spanish city, Valencia probably, and this also and many other stuff related to digitalization will come up in the news of this webinar and on our website. With this 1 minute, if there is some burning issues, but apparently you've been, overwhelmed with information. Thank you for staying with us. Speakers are also still with us. 1 minute,
I
Diana.
just want to correct
Yes.
something important.
Yes, please.
Ramsar parties are in the meeting in Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Victoria Falls. It's good that some of these negotiations also meet in cities that are not usual. And IUCN Congress is in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia. Sorry.
Abu Dhabi is not in Saudi, it's in the United Arab Emirates.
What did I say?
Well, let us publish this on the news, and obviously on your website. All right.
I have to leave.
Yunus. Yes, Yunus, we leave in call. Last word.
Thank you very much. It was very informative. And thanks for sharing the ICLEI's agenda for 2025. And feel free to share the LGMA website, the website of the LGMA constitutes UNFCCC. And happy to work with you on this journey. And greetings to all colleagues there.
Will do. Okay, thank you. Thank you to all, and have a nice day or afternoon, and see you soon, all of you. Thank you. Bye.